For many businesses, big and small, it's now lights out. And with the economy in the tank, companies are doing all they can just to stay afloat. For many, though, even the most desperate measures have not been enough. Former giants in American business have recently tilted into extinction. All things that can change must change rapidly. Circuit City has announced it would follow Linens and Things and Sharper Image into liquidation and sell all its assets. Over the next 2 years, economists say, or even the next few months, countless other businesses will simply fade away. This is now an unprecedented time as far as how bad things have gotten. The number of business bankruptcy filings rose sharply in 2008, with 31% more companies looking to liquidate instead of just restructure their debt in the third quarter than in the first, and the fourth quarter could be even worse. They have little choice. Many companies are loaded down with debt amassed in the days of easy money. Servicing that debt is harder because of falling revenue, and lenders, facing their own troubles, are not as eager to refinance anymore. And the buyers that can afford an acquisition right now are few and far between. Circuit City, for instance, filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy protection in November and tried to strike a deal with lenders while it also looked for a buyer. But now, just over 2 months later, it says that both of those efforts have failed and that it would close its remaining 567 locations, putting more than 30,000 people out of work, on top of all the others. The Richmond retailer owes its creditors more than $2.3 billion, making it one of 146 companies with at least $100 million in liabilities that filed for bankruptcy last year, according to statistics from Edward Altman, a corporate finance expert at New York University's Stern School of Business. In 2007, 38 companies with assets greater than $100 million filed, and now filings rise across the board. Many of the headline-grabbing bankruptcy filings recently have come from retailers, but economists are seeing filings rise across a broad range of industries such as hospitality, automotive suppliers, gaming, retailers, among others. Meanwhile, for every major corporation staring at insolvency, there are thousands and thousands of smaller and mid-sized businesses in the same predicament, but with fewer resources to weather bad times. The owners of Franklin Equipment Company, a manufacturer of logging tractors in the western Tidewater area of Virginia, said earlier this month that they would file for Chapter 7 and sell off their assets after 46 years in business, putting approximately 70 employees out of work. Clyde Parker, Franklin's personnel director, said the company was done in by a drop in demand for lumber and paper products, financing issues, and a dearth of interested buyers. We've been through a lot of downturns over the years, but none near as severe as the one we're now in, he said. Many businesses are paying dearly for the easy times under which they borrowed money just a few years ago. During the height of the debt craze in 2006 and 2007, lenders let borrowers take a holiday before having to pay down the principal. They also allowed companies that couldn't meet interest payments to add those payments onto the principal. Those types of loans were recent innovations, said the director of Dartmouth Center for Private Equity. Such covenant-light loans allowed companies to default later than they would have in years past, but when they did, they were much worse off. And debt financing also grew much more complicated in recent years, as multiple layers of creditors were added. Although creditor agreements can help avoid disputes, creditors can find themselves at odds among themselves. Those first in line to collect may push for liquidation and a faster payday, while second-tier creditors seeking to increase their chances of collecting may want to work out new terms instead. You've got to get a number of people to sit down to agree, and that's just tougher than in previous downturn cycles. There's never been a time like this before, and there'll never be a time like this again. All things must change. Again, rapidly. Last year, there were 64,318 commercial bankruptcy filings, the most since 2005, when debtors scrambled to file ahead of changes in bankruptcy laws. According to Automated Access to Court Electronic Records, an Oklahoma City bankruptcy management and data company, some changes have made it more difficult for companies to restructure, experts say. Debtors now have a maximum of 18 months to propose or confirm a reorganization before creditors get to step in. They also have a limited time to accept or reject leases, a change that has put a lot more pressure on retailers, in particular, to make decisions very quickly. And now, buyers aren't showing up. For companies that find restructuring infeasible, another option is to sell to a buyer that would keep the business going, but those buyers, by and large, aren't showing up anymore. Private equity companies, which once made big profits buying up troubled companies, mostly with borrowed money and then selling them, have lately been unwilling to take large equity stakes in companies, and such financing is now hard to get, and those private equity firms that have money to spend want to conserve it, said the president of the Turnaround Management Association. The reason they aren't sure how soon they'll be able to replenish their coffers. And in times of distress, lending always tightens. The difference is the degree to which it has this time, said a corporate bankruptcy lawyer with Jones Day in New York. For companies whose options for survival are rapidly dwindling, this is bad news. Lenders are at loggerheads with their borrowers. And these, once again, are not like times it's ever been before. These are very different times. And all these things are connected to something that's much bigger. Again, much bigger in all this, which in turn is connected to everything else that is going on in the world. And, again, which in turn is connected to the end times transition days. The transition is ongoing. And all these are more signs. They're all around us, happening every day. And in some kind of way, they are increasing in frequency. All things must change rapidly.